Greetings, all! You know, I've been doing work here for a while now, and while I do enjoy what I do, I feel like there's a lot more that I can honestly do with what I have experience and work in as a fan of Pokémon. So, given that I've had a lot of downtime, more so than normal, to examine things and play around, I thought that maybe it was about time to start looking at something that's been filling my time for quite a while now. Pokémon fan games and ROM hacks. I'm a pretty straight-laced guy when it comes to normal Pokémon games, but I do enjoy seeing others put their creativity to work to make a new adventure or story for the fans of Pokémon to experience and see. So this is going to be the start of a new series that will air pretty much whenever I feel like making a video for it, and given the time available, that might not make them so infrequent. Welcome everyone to Catch It or Run! And we're going to start off today with a very special and incredibly unique ROM hack. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I will present to you Pokémon Clover. Catch it or run.
To review Pokémon Clover, it's best that we start by taking a look at the origins of the game. Clover started out as a hasty hack of Fire Red all the way back in 2014, before eventually taking a life of its own as a fully fledged ROM hack a few years later, with the initial, incomplete build being released in 2017.
I actually played this version of the game first, and so had a good introduction to it before playing it more for this review. But I could tell that it wasn't finished, and not being exactly in tune with the community behind it at the time, I didn't know if I was ever going to get a completed version. In fact, the game's Pokédex was technically impossible to complete, as not all the Pokémon had actually been added into the game.
And then, earlier this year, I was happily surprised to see the announcement and release of a complete, finished build of the game, and I've already taken multiple trips through it since then. The game itself can be thought of as a giant parody of sorts of the world of Pokémon and the main series games as a whole, as well as representation of the group responsible for creating it, 4chan.
That's right. If you didn't know already, this game was made by individuals on 4chan and is as much of a parody of their message boards and social culture as it is the world of Pokémon.
Now, while this might be seen as a warning flag to most, as I will go into detail on in a little bit, this was a project that took thousands of cumulative hours to construct and, according to the main wiki for the game, was created by more than 40 contributors, a massive project that took years to fully complete and release. This is incredibly impressive for just one game like this, but there is much to talk about here beneath the surface. Pokémon Clover itself plays out much like a normal Pokémon game, operating as a hack of Fire Red, with the associated style of sprite work and graphics you would expect to come from such a base. I'm personally not a huge snob when it comes to graphics and how things look. So long as the gameplay is good, I'll play it. But I have to admit that the game does have a visual quality to it that really makes it feel like something more than what it is made from. You see the iconic vision of the regional professor, Professor Stump, as he welcomes you to the world of Pokémon and manages to bitch about his job at the same time, setting the tone for the adventure to come. You grab your starter, face your rival, and you can tell right away that things are going to be interesting. It really plays like a normal Pokémon game from the main series, complete with traditional combat mechanics, breeding, gyms, and everything. The formula is classic, but still works. However, your adventure is anything but normal, as you travel through the vastness of the Fochan and Ebon regions and encounter a world that is a living cesspool of memes, and that's putting it nicely and quite literally.
While I won't give away the lore of the game, it is there, and in droves, and it does offer an explanation for everything, but as far as most players should be concerned, it's got all the bells and whistles of a genuine Pokémon game, built for both fun and for competitive strategists looking to sink their teeth into something new and unique, with plenty of secrets to find and discover that go beyond even what classic Pokémon players might expect to find.
One of the most important factors that can come into play with a game like this is how long it lasts and how much there really is to do. And with Pokémon Clover, there is certainly plenty to do. The Pokédex of the game features 386 creatures to find and capture, but it's all spread out enough that the journey is not so easy to just breeze through in most cases. It is possible to clock in close to 200 hours of game time or more if you're looking to complete everything, and even then, there can still be plenty to explore and examine fully, making for a very fulfilling experience as a whole. What helps to make Clover stand out from a traditional game of its kind is the ratio of time spent playing through the main game and the post-game, because as odd as it might sound, the game is pretty evenly split. The first part of the game, the main campaign, follows you as you try to compete in the Fochin League, battling against the region's 8 gym leaders and ascending to the Elite Four and champion of the region, all while battling against the evil organization of the game, Team Karma. Once this is done though, there are still some parts of the land to see and experience, as well as the Ebon Islands to explore, and trust me, there is a lot going on there that's too good for me to spoil for you. You'll be spending close to the same amount you spent in the main campaign in the post-game, and it helps to make for a lengthy and fun experience that can give players a good sense that the main campaign is more than worth getting through for the sake of the post-game, especially since it's necessary to complete the long secondary journey to get the full story of the 2 regions and complete the tale laid out before you.
Considering I'm the kind of guy that likes for there to be plenty to do of interest beyond just becoming the champion, this really appealed to me greatly, and I know I'm not alone out there, especially among veteran trainers.
Now, when it comes to ROM hacks and fan games of any sort, there is always the opportunity to change things up and make a game that is either on par with the difficulty of the main series titles, or to do something completely different and make them hard. Clover, well, to be nice about it, this is not a game for beginners. Oh no. Sure, it plays just as fine as a regular game up to a certain point. Heck, even getting past the first gym leader might not even be so hard. But once you get to the second one, yeah, the game will flat out bulldoze you if you really don't know what you're doing.
Pokemon Clover is hard. Not the hardest that I've ever played, mind you. That title goes to a different game altogether that I will likely talk about in a future episode, but it will kick your butt if you're not careful and don't know how to properly strategize.
Now, that might not seem very fair, but Clover, despite its difficulty streak, is not completely hostile to players. There are plenty of opportunities to find the Pokemon you might need for a certain battle to overcome it, but you can't just blast through with your starter or a small team in order to get through it all. You have to commit to making a full team for the game, and will be encouraged to swap out members from time to time to conquer new challenges and accomplish feats that might otherwise seem impossible if you're just grinding through with one team. Though there is another reason for this kind of needed flexibility that I will cover in a bit. Moreover, EV training and looking for Pokemon with good IVs is a must, as your opponents will eventually be doing the same and presenting and using that to their advantage. And when it comes to later battles, luck will not be the only thing needed to get through battles. In many cases, you'll have to be able to memorize and predict the actions that enemy AI takes in battle and manipulate it to get victory. I know that doesn't really sound fair, and in fact, probably feels like you are cheesing the system, but with Clover, that's perfectly fine, as can often be the only way to get victory outside of some fluke critical hits and misses here and there. Speaking from personal experience, yeah, it's not always a fun thing. In fact, sometimes it can be downright infuriating. But if you're a veteran, this kind of challenge is something that can be worked with and played at, if only to get through without feeling like a complete failure if you hit a roadblock.
I will, however, admit that in many cases and in many battles, I had to save right before a fight and continue to soft reset until I could actually manipulate the AI, or get the luck I needed, in order to actually get past the harder opponents in the game. And trust me, you'll be doing that a lot through your playthrough. Also, a word of caution, this is not a game that you want to attempt a Nuzlocke on. I don't want to give too much away as to why, but let's just say you'll thank me for how many of the battles go in this game if you take that advice.
Another thing that needs to be talked about is the soundtrack to the game because, well, to be quite frank, it is not only one of the most extensive I've ever seen in any game, but by far is the most extensive one I've seen in a ROM hack of this sort, and even a main series game. There are over 200 distinct tracks in the game, and each is framed together with the visuals perfectly. What really makes the soundtrack stand out though, is that it is almost entirely original content or remixes of themes from the main series games, with unique tracks for the introduction of different trainer classes, environments, and even battles, with legendaries in particular getting a lot of the best unique tracks in the entire game. the tracks also cover a very wide range of genres that help to define and give personality to each and every aspect of the game, from catchy, upbeat tempos to radical rock and roll, to adventurous outdoor themes, and techno masterpieces. And so much more.
I know it sounds like I'm gushing over it a bit, but I mean what I say. The music here is some of the best I've ever heard for a game like this, even more so than music used in the main series games, and it really shines through and helps to give every encounter new area a sense of personality and charm that really goes above and beyond what most might be used to. Also, I've been listening to the soundtrack pretty much non-stop from the time I started playing my latest run until the publishing of this video. So, yeah, it's addicting.
Now, let's dive a bit into some of the special features that help this game to stand out from other creations of its type. This is by far not everything defined in the game, but a bit of a taste as to what to expect. For one thing, while the game operates with the same basic battle mechanics featured up through Generation 7 of the mainline series, it is noticeably different in the way that experience is gained. On the one hand, experience is gained amongst party members much as it is in current generations, with all party members giving a chunk of the experience earned by a Pokémon battling after defeating an enemy, so it seems like leveling up would be easy to do. However, the way that experience is earned is based on the formula used for calculating experience in Generation 5, so the higher the level of your Pokémon compared to that of the opposition, the less experience you'll earn. In addition, this game introduces at least one other factor in this that decreases the experience gained from direct battle the longer a Pokémon is used in battle before leveling up, and how close your Pokémon's levels are to that of the next major gym leader or significant opponent. I think this is done to force you to build an actual team to get through the game rather than just rely on one over-leveled Pokémon to breeze through it, which I totally respect on the part of the developers. Next, I want to give some attention to the Wonder Trade system that is implemented in the game. Similar to the main series, on the top floor of every Pokémon Center, there is a corner where you can exchange a Pokémon of any level to get something random in return. The catch here is that the Pokémon that can be obtained come not from other players, but the game itself, as the game does not allow for online play in this fashion. This process can only be done once before you get your first badge, but from there on it can be done an infinite number of times, though there is a cooldown time between Wonder Trades to limit your activity, with the length of the cooldown time decreasing the more badges that you have earned. This feature is welcome in the game for two main reasons. First of all, it allows you the chance to get some rare Pokémon much earlier than normal in the game, which can be great for filling out the Pokédex. More importantly though, the Pokémon that you can have fixed IVs, and some of them can be quite powerful and perfect to add to a team if you're in need of some extra firepower.
Now, I will say that if these more powerful fighters are carrying you through most of your game, well, then you might need to practice a bit more with what you can normally get, or try playing a different game altogether.
However, I will attest to using these more powerful than normal fighters on my own teams in all playthroughs I've done of the game, as the sheer power they can bring to the table makes them more than worth using, so long as you're willing to work and be patient with them. The third and fourth things I really want to touch upon that really help Pokémon Clover stand out from other ROM hacks and fan projects in general, although important, are also admittedly the two special features that keep Clover from being more mainstream in terms of audience approval. First of all, there is the humor. As I mentioned before, this game was made by people from 4chan, and as a result, the humor level of it ranges widely, and takes from aspects of pop culture and social culture to levels that can be both surreal and enjoyable in the way they are designed, and completely insane in their delivery and execution.
Put simply, if you're easily offended by pretty much anything, you might not like this game, because Clover will eventually reference it and make fun of it.
Now, while I am not the kind of person to always find offensive humor entertaining, I was okay with it because I understood where it was coming from in terms of who made it. Even so, Yeah, there are a few jokes that didn't land well with me and made me more than a bit irritated. But I didn't let that get to me, and you really shouldn't either. This game is an amalgamation of 4chan and general internet culture in many forms, and the fact that there is so much there to not like actually adds to the game's charm. Whether it be trainers, NPCs, or events that leave you scratching your head, the sheer level of depravity that the game can go to knows no bounds. But that freedom is also what makes the game so enjoyable and replayable, if only to hear people say crazy stuff over and over again. There are even appearances by people from the real world in the game, and while I won't give away too many, there is one, spoilers ahead by the way again, that stands out to me. Pokémon Clover has Hitler. And no, not a Hitler, the Hitler. Adolf Hitler is in the game. And you can fight him. And he is honestly not a terrible guy in the game. You kind of almost feel for him a bit. Don't take that out of context.
My point here is that you're going to find a lot of stuff here that isn't nice to read. But it is part of our internet culture today, 4chan especially, and if I'm being honest, I was genuinely impressed by it.
There are so many references in the game, so many that I literally cannot list them all, or we'd be here for a very long time. The sheer volume of references really shows the dedication the creators of this game had for the craft, and I am very happy to see so much love be put into the game. If you can't stand the heat, this is one spicy meal you might want to stay away from. But if you've got decently thick skin and think you can handle it, then the sheer inventiveness of it all is likely to leave you laughing your behind off at some point or another, and I don't think I could ask much more from it at all. And speaking of inventiveness, we come to the last thing I want to talk about in this review, the actual Pokémon or Fakemon. And I'm not gonna lie, these are by far the strangest creatures I've ever seen in any fan game or ROM hack I've ever played. There are 386 unique creatures that can be found, captured, and obtained in the game, and as you might expect, the vast majority of them play into the humor of the game in both the best and worst ways possible. Some are just cool by design, some are incredibly powerful and dangerous to even go near, but most of them will leave you either scratching your head, confused, laughing, insulted, or a combination of all these emotions and more. As with the rest of the game, these creatures are a mixture of memes and internet culture references, and as a whole, show a great deal of variety and downright ridiculous humor that may or may not rub a lot of people the wrong way if they're not used to handling such a thing.
And yes, some of them, in my opinion, do go a bit too far. But that's just my opinion, and I don't let that get in the way of giving the game a fair review. Heck, some of them are actually pretty clever.
One of my favorites has to be the Implora family, which you normally won't get access to until the post-game unless you get lucky with a Wonder Trade like I did once. Implora are incredibly weak, slow, and perhaps have the worst abilities known from the main series games, as well as horrible stats and a really bad selection of moves. Their evolved form, Chromox, on the other hand, have fantastic stats, abilities, and a killer selection of moves. The whole joke is that Implora represents Internet Explorer, and Chromox, Firefox or Google Chrome, poking fun at the glitchy and slow nature of the former internet browser system compared to later systems. This is definitely one of the tamer examples, as there are some entries I don't feel I should show right away, if only because I would rather not have this review taken down for offensive content.
As a whole though, out of all the fan games and ROM hacks I've ever played, this game boasts the most creative designs I've ever seen for Fakemon, and they're surprisingly well balanced for battle as well. Some are sporting new moves, specialty held items and abilities that help to make them even more charming and interesting than they are already, and even the capacity to inherit special egg moves inaccessible to them normally when their parents hold specific held items in a daycare.
Moreover, unlike some other ROM hacks, the creatures in the game are usually not meant to really be clear parallels to anything in particular in every case, with many families and creatures standing out on their own as something distinct in evolution and form from the actual Generation 1 to 3 counterparts. I could go on, but suffice to say, Pokémon Clover has a fantastic selection of ideas in its Fakemon, and more than trumps the competition in the way of ingenuity and culture references, the likes of which I've failed to really find anywhere else.
So, as a whole, what do I think of Pokémon Clover? In general, it is a fun, entertaining, and unique adventure that has many twists, turns, and so many internet culture references that it's amazing that it even exists in a complete state, let alone at all. But then again, should we really be that surprised?
I mean, it was made by 4chan, and as crazy as it can sometimes be there, it is a dedicated community with so many branches and groups in it, and in turn so many resources, that it doesn't actually surprise me that some of its members were able to produce a Pokemon game with this level of extreme quality and finesse. I've played quite a few fan games and other projects over the years, but Pokemon Clover has a lot to offer players, and while it might not be perfect, such as the battle facilities post-game not really being operational, it delivers a fantastic experience that really needs to be experienced to enjoy, especially if you initially find it hard to get past the game's sense of humor. I've played this game quite a few times, from its prototype stage in 2017 to the full release today, and I can safely say that with everything offered by the game's brilliant ingenuity and the love and passion put into it, this is one of the best, and one of my personal favorite fan games I have ever played.
So, to answer the question posed before, catch it or run? If you feel like you don't have thick skin or just can't handle awkward internet culture as a whole, this is one best left alone. But as far as I'm concerned, that's easy. Catch it! Thanks for watching, and tune in next time when I take a look at another fan project and we see whether or not it's worth going for. Until then, have a wonderful day. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always a pleasure to help teach others about the world of Pokemon and the many facets of it that exist in both the world we call home and the world they call home. If you'd like, please leave a comment and subscribe and ring the bell to this channel to get regular updates on content and anything else that might be going on. You can find me and my written work on DeviantArt under the name Utitus and be informed of information and content uploads on my Twitter page and my Patreon page. Donations are always welcome. Always remember, the world of Pokemon is a vast and varied place, and there's no telling what secrets might be hiding just around the corner. So keep watch, stay vigilant, and always prepare for the unexpected. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of the day.